Good morning. It's April 16th, Sunday, and I'm coming just to do a little podcast and to say hello to all of you and hope that you are blessed in the Lord. So I wanted to show you a few things before I give them away. It's going to be a short podcast. Last week I did coasters. This week I found a new pattern, and with one small ball of cotton, this is worsted weight, I was able to make, it was a ball of yarn that goes from like a light yellow to kind of a limey. And when I get the time, I'll put the link to the pattern. It's free pattern. So I was able to get 6 out of just one little ball of cotton yarn. I did modify the pattern because it tells you to do double crochet chain 1, it's a free pattern, double crochet chain 1. Then you're supposed to chain 1 and turn. And this yarn would split a lot. And I had trouble getting into the stitches, so I didn't turn. I just went, and instead of trying to do a single crochet in each stitch, I did my single crochets in between the chain 1 space. It was so much easier, and I did that up here too. So these will be a gift for somebody that has a new house, and sometimes you want to give a gift, but you really can't spend a lot. So this is a great gift. Then there is a Mary Maxim yarn. We still have it. I don't know if it's still sold, called Scrub It. And you really don't need a pattern. But I did use a much smaller hook. I think I used a D. Because if you don't, I think they're too open. And all that you do is do your 12 double crochets in the circle, and then you do 2 double crochets around in each stitch, and then 2 double crochets around in each stitch. And then if you want to do a single crochet edging, but it's the same way that you do a little hat, you know. I ran out of yellow. This was a knitted pattern, free pattern that was on the internet. And even though this yarn is not the funnest yarn to work with, it has these little, it is a good yarn for scrubbies and dishcloths, and it does get soft. Also, I always dampen my dishcloth and put it in the microwave for a minute. Now, I don't know if this has polyester in it. If it does, it might melt. But I thought I was out of this, and then I found some. No, I was out of the green. So I did as much green as I could, and then I substituted the yellow, but it looks like a cat. So I'm thinking if I can modify this pattern a little bit, make the ear a little bit taller, do a skip stitch so that he has 2 eyes, I can create a little kitty cat scrubby. I think I'm going to do that. It was just one of those gifts from God where you just said, look at that, it's a cat. And if the colors had more contrast, I think the cat would really show up. This is a free pattern on Ravelry called Flower Power, done with sugar and cream yarn. I think I showed this the last time. This is linen. And since it was a fingering weight, I used 3 strands. This is actually a free pattern online, which when I get a moment, I'm on my way to my mom's 88th birthday party, I will link it, but it's free pattern. But it's one of those things where I think you have to sign up to get the pattern, but it's very fun. It really was fun. And after you wash it and all, it gets softer. Yeah. That's my first experience with linen. And then I'm trying to get a lot of whips finished. I probably forgot to say my name. It's Catherine Kirby. I live in Pennsylvania. I own a yarn shop. I was doing the Grandma's Dishcloth pattern. And this was a yarn from Knit one, crochet two, I think. And it was called Fleece, I think. And it is soft, it is. But anyway, a lady came in to the shop. I had a bunch of this and said, well, I like to knit, but I'm allergic to wool. I can't do this. I can't use that. I can't use bamboo. Everything breaks me out. And she bought all of the fleece. So what I decided to do is make a little doggy bandana. So I left my loop there. I'm going to crochet a little chain. And I tried it out on the dog, and it's perfect. It looks pink there, but it's actually a red, white, and blue. Then I had a little unfinished garter stitch scarf, Cascade Bentley, and I decided it's time to just get her done, get her finished. We mail packages to Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota. You can find that on Ravelry as a group, and we're getting ready to mail some boxes. So this will go in there. And then, I don't think I showed this on the last podcast. This was a free crochet pattern. I did it in a Louisa Harding DK Merino, which is what it called for. But if I do it again, I'm going to do it, I think, more stitch. Well, if you just want it for inside your coat, it's perfect. If you want it to be a little bigger, so yeah, I guess not a trend. I guess you could also use it as a ear warmer. If you doubled it, the stitch is easy to learn. It was free pattern, so when I get a chance, I'll link it. I hate to rush through, but I have to. You may have seen on the internet, and I'm not affiliated or anything, that you can subscribe to a box from Israel Lev Halalam, I think, and it supports the Jewish businesses that are shut out from commerce from the world. So I got my first box. If I hold it up, I think it's going to fall apart, but you open it up and it looks like a palace. It has all these areas, and I thought I would unbox it. So when you open it, it looks like a beautiful palace. And the theme is the book of Esther. And I've been trying to learn some Hebrew, and it just totally changes the scriptures. They just come to life. Like in the desert, when God said, cling to me, it really meant hug me, hold on to me, hug me. So it starts out, it was in the days of the king Ahasuerus. Welcome to the story of a heroic queen. I thought you might enjoy seeing this. And then here's the book of Esther in Hebrew. You learn that Hebrew is a very amazing language. Every word has a 3-letter root that might represent the Trinity. And then the letters around it tell about the word. So let's use the word anger. The letters around it would tell what the anger was about. Then when you flip the book, I see it has the story of Esther in my language with, beautiful pictures around it. So, wow, this took some planning and some thought. So let's see what else is in here. Underneath this big, tall chandelier if you've never read the book of Esther, it's precious. So what did we get here? I have been finding recipes to make our own salad dressings and dousing the salad. Oh, it's so much better than store-bought. So I told my husband we're going to have to get some cooking wine, but this is actually dry white wine. And you get a book in here that tells you about each merchant, how this wine is made, where it's Talbot wines are characterized by their deep connection with the land of Israel from the Sauvignon grape with apricot and honey and grapefruit. And then chocolate-coated roasted almonds. Later on, maybe I'll tell you more about the cherry tomato jam. Some of these merchants live in very war-torn areas where there's always bombing. Their children are exposed to that. Cherry tomato. I saw where last week there were like 23, I think, rockets fired at them. They have a shield that deflects those bombs. Ester, based on rich, nourishing oils and organic herbs and deeply moisturizing your lips and dry skin. So, and then Ester Organic Skincare, luxurious oil blend with exclusive oils and so forth. Sorry about that. And don't ever sign up for the pillow place, the guy that sells the pillows, Frank's, because you will get notifications 3 times a day. This is Galit and Danny changed their diet, but did not mean giving up tasty treats. This is oatmeal cranberry spelt cookies. And lastly, a queen's necklace designed by a local artisan. Like the beautiful scent of myrtle, Esther found favor in all who beheld her. And just as the leaves of the hadass protect its fragile stem, so too was Esther protected by the Holy One from the evil that pervaded the palace. So Esther is a beautiful story about a young girl that was torn from her home because the queen kind of wouldn't honor the king, and he needs a new bride. Okay, lastly, I wanted to share something beautiful from the scriptures. So in Psalm 22, David writes really about Jesus being crucified. Now, this was hundreds of years before the crucifixion, and yet he wrote about it. And Jesus said, this is Psalm 22:6, I am a worm. But if you go to that word worm, it was actually the word towla, Towla, and it was the scarlet worm that was common in Israel. And its shells are used to make red dye. So that worm climbs the oak tree, attaches permanently, lays its eggs, and exudes this red crimson liquid over them, which hardens and stains the baby worms and the tree. Then the red shell is left behind, and it's used to be ground into powder and dye cloth. But after 3 days, that crimson shell on the tree becomes scales, and the scales turn to white flakes, and they drop from the tree like snow. And 3 days is really important in the Bible. If you look up 3 days, you'll find 3 days all over the place. So Isaiah 1:18 says, come now, let us reason together. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Though they be as red as crimson, they shall be as white as wool. And many years ago, I just saw an obituary where this man died, and his father, Hoke, was very precious to me. I was working in a nursing home, and he was a little old man that always had a wool sweater on in the sun all year round. And he was in his 90s, and he had one friend that came to visit him and a grandson. And I would talk to him about God. I was young. I had 4 children. And one day, maybe his eyesight wasn't the best, he said to me, "Are you the girl? Are you the girl that talks to me about God?" And I was a fairly new Christian, because he said, I want to hear. I'm ready to listen. And I thought, dear God, what am I going to say? All the things in the Bible, what should I tell him? So I told him about sin, and I told him about God cleansing sin. And so he prayed humbly, asked God to forgive his sins, asked Jesus into his heart. And I said to him, I will come see you tomorrow. Well, the next day I was at nursing school, which was down the street and around the corner and so forth. And at lunchtime, it was pouring rain. But I had told him. So I don't even think I had an umbrella, but I went. And I don't even know if he remembered that I said I would come. But he looked at me and he said, "Are all my sins forgiven?" "Yes." And he said, "How do you know? How do you know that?" And God brought that verse to my mind, Isaiah 1:18. "Come now and let us reason together." But I didn't know it was connected to the worm and Jesus, the prophecy. So that's something beautiful for you to know about the scriptures. And I'm going to leave off there, and I'll see you the next time. And thank you so much for joining me, and God bless, and stay in the Word of God and in prayer. Shine, baby, shine.